Hi everyone. July 1st. What does July 1st mean for boutique movie lovers? Boutique labels is the Criterion Barnes & Noble sale where you can actually walk into a store, have a whole slew of movies in front of you, hopefully, depending on which Barnes & Noble you're going to, and pick out movies at your leisure. I love it. I've been doing it since the 1990s. I live about 20 minutes from 3 different Barnes & Nobles, and so pretty much anything I want I can get. And I wanted to recommend 10 titles. There's 2 box sets and I think 8 other titles. 6 of the other titles are 2022 releases, and then I have 2 old releases, which I don't think I've ever shown before or ever recommended. So let's get started. And probably this is my top recommendation of the movies that I bought this year, and that is America Lost and Found, set the BBS story. And I've done videos on 5 Easy Pieces, on Drive He Said. Oh, I haven't done 5 Easy Pieces yet, but I will be doing that one. I have done Drive He Said, Last Picture Show, King of Marvin Gardens, and Head. So I've got a couple more to go in this set, but this is just it took me, this has been out for a long time, and I've never bought, I think I bought it in the flash sale, and there's just, it's so emblematic of the 1970s, of that sort of ethos of new young filmmakers. The production code has gone away. They want to make different kind of films, original films. This is just, and there's great supplements on each of these films, and I can't recommend it higher. Now, I am steeped in the 1970s, so The King of Marvin Gardens, for instance, was 1972, and I'm doing a whole series on the films in 1972. And this is, Jack Nicholson is in front of and behind the camera in some of these films, and there's another box set that I have to recommend too. This is from the 1970s too. This is not Hollywood 1970s, the new Hollywood, as they say. This is an old master, still alive and kicking in the 1960s, and that's Louis Buñuel. His last 3 films, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois, The Phantom of Liberty, That Obscure Object of Desire. Again, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois was part of my 1972 series. I haven't done a video yet on the other 2, The Phantom of Liberty. That Obscure Object of Desire, I often say is the best last film from any of the master filmmakers. I don't think that any of the great classic filmmakers ever made a last film as good as That Obscure Object of Desire. And again, I'm a huge Louis Buñuel fan. Lots of great extras in this set. Let's get to, I think I have 6 films that I've chose from that have been released in 2022. And the first one is Adoption, and this is directed by Marta Mazzaros, a film from Hungary. I think it's 1975, so again, we're in the 1970s. It's set in Hungary in the days of the domination of the Soviet Union. It's a dark and dreary small town in Hungary. An older woman has befriended a teenage girl from the local home for runaway girls, or girls in the case of this teenage girl, a girl whose parents have given up on her. They develop a real friendship. This older lady is in her 40s. She does not have any children. She's not married, but their friendship has sort of lit the maternal instinct, and she then decides to adopt a baby. And so we go through her through the process of having to get this baby and bringing it home, and it's a beautiful film that is very touching in its both its exploration of this woman's journey. And I really want to see some more Marta Mazzaros films. She has a very distinct style. This is a far more famous film, and this is a film that's been playing on the Criterion channel well, ever since I can remember. Now, Adoption, I believe, is starting today, July 1st, on the channel, I think in one of their editions, so the supplements on Adoption are also available if you have access to the Criterion channel. This is an upgrade, Blu-ray upgrade, directed by Vittorio De Sica from a screenplay by Cesar Zavattini back in the heyday of the neorealism era, Umberto D, Bicycle Thief. But this is a comedy, and both De Sica and Zavattini were highly criticized for making a comedy about poverty, but it's a very unusual film in 1951. There was so much poverty and there was very little opportunity for people to get ahead in life. Soon to come in Italy would be the economic miracle. It's not here yet. But they form a shanty town on the outskirts of Milan. But then the rich people come to dispossess them because they think they've discovered oil, and so it's neorealism with mixed in with magical realism. Next up, that was from the 50s. Now we'll go back to 1939, another great year for movies. And this is Love Affair, and this is directed by Leo McCarey. It stars Charles Boyer and Irene Dunne. A story, as the title says, of a love affair. A very convincing depiction of two people falling in love and what it feels like and how it develops from friendship into love. Tremendous chemistry between these two stars. The slow burn of Leo McCarey's direction, always fantastic. And remade by McCarey as Affair to Remember in the 1950s with Cary Grant, Deborah Kerr. A good movie, but this catches the magic of what 1930s movies were all about. Next up, we go back to the 70s, why not? And is this the 70s? No, this is the 80s. This is 1982. Boat People from Hong Kong, directed by Ann Hui. And it's a story of a fictionalized story of the exodus of Vietnamese, South Vietnamese. I think 700, is estimated at least 700,000 Vietnamese left South Vietnam in the ensuing years of the subsequent years following the time when the American troops left. The Viet Cong take over the North Vietnamese. They have a very dictatorial kind of concept towards life. They need these characters who have become adapted to the more or less laissez-faire style of the American occupation are having trouble adjusting to this brave new world. They're sent to re-education camps. Their lives are horrible. They see their only escape as fleeing on boats. Many of them, most of them, I guess, end up in Hong Kong. And Hui actually went to the camps where these refugees had sort of makeshift cities or towns, and she interviewed many of them. So this is a movie full of incident, and maybe a little bit too many incidents for one movie to carry on, but they're all truthful in that Hui is basing the incidents in this film on the interviews she had with these dispossessed people. Now we go to, this is the 1960s. This is Flight of the Phoenix, a Robert Aldrich movie. It stars Jimmy Stewart as a airplane pilot in North Africa. The plane is owned by a big industrial company, and he's ferrying some of their employees and some other officers, military officers, one played by Peter Finch. And one really strange engineer played by Hardy Kruger, and a really great performance. And they crash in the desert. Their radio is of no use, and Hardy Kruger comes up with this weird plan to get themselves out of the desert. It's a typical Robert Aldrich movie about a group of men who are under siege by hostile forces here in the desert. How do you figure out what to do? You go by the book, as Peter Finch would go by, or do you go by a crazy engineer who is filled with imagination? It's a terrific movie. I think one of Robert Aldrich's best movies, and so glad to see this come out on the Criterion channel. And the last of the 2022 releases that I wanted to recommend is The Girl Can't Help It. And this is in glorious color. This is a Frank Tasselin movie. The color, like I said, the color is just fantastic in this movie. This film got a lot of controversy from the picture quality brigades, that the background was not the right color, and at least on my set, it came up very bluish. But the foreground colors are fantastic, and Jane Mansfield looks incredible. You see one of her costumes here, her platinum blonde hair. But this movie is really about pop music, and so we get Little Richard, we get Fats Domino, Julie London, Gene Vincent, The Platters, Eddie Cochran, a few others performing. And as this is a relatively, I guess, a medium-sized budget film, they're filmed in ways that there were other pop music, rock and roll movies, low budget, that were made at the time. They were raucous affairs. And so lots of teenagers, lots of dancing. The odd thing here is that most of these groups are performing in nightclubs in front of older people, not historically accurate, but just to get a chance to see, especially the Platters. God, I love the Platters. Fats Domino is great, Little Richard, fantastic, Julie London. I was a little kid when these acts were at the height of their popularity, but I certainly knew them. I had an older brother, older sister, so the music was being played all the time. And so you get a real good chance to see them perform at the height when they were in their prime. And Julie London, of course, was not only a singer, she was an actress, and she was in Man of the West with Gary Cooper, one of my favorite Westerns. So I thought I'd also add a couple of older titles. Those of you who follow my channel know that I've been doing a lot of videos on Claude Chabrol, but I don't think I've ever shown the two Criterion movies that are directed by Claude Chabrol. And there were his first two movies, and I went back and rewatched them after I finished the last. There was two box sets released this year by Arrow, but I wanted more Chabrol, so I hadn't seen the first two movies in quite a while. The first one is the Lebeau Surge, and this is really like the first French New Wave movie. I think it was the first one to actually be released. Jean-Claude Brialy and who is that? The other actor in this film, geez, I don't see his name right off the bat, Jean-Claude Brialy, Gerard Blain. And Gerard Blain was in a lot of English language films. In fact, if you've ever seen Hatari with John Wayne, he plays, I think he's actually called Frenchie in the movie. But Lebeau Surge is a very autobiographical film by Claude Chabrol. He revisits the small town where he lived in, especially during World War II, out in the countryside, and Jean-Claude Brialy is sort of playing the Chabrol character coming back to the town where he grew up, and Gerard Blain is playing his former best friend, but he's fallen on bad times, dissolute times, drunken, married. He is very disappointed in life. It's about their relationship, and Bernadette Lafont is in this film as well. Very good and very important film in the French New Wave. And then a couple years later, maybe a year later, he made Claude Chabrol's second movie, La Cousine, with the same two actors, but they sort of switch roles in that Gerard Blain comes from the country to the big city now, where his cousin, played by Jean-Claude Brialy, is living in an apartment. they're this is their end of their university days. This is really, the Lebeau Surge is kind of, like I say, autobiographical film that really kind of follows along with Claude Chabrol's own experiences. This is more the tension and between the competition between two men. This is more or less what Claude Chabrol's films were more like as he goes forward. And of course, he made 50-some movies. So I'd like to, and then, you know, also box sets. There's Keith Lasky's Three Colors. There's Rainer Werner Fassbinder's BRD trilogy. There's Eric Rohmer's Six Moral Tales. This is an Eclipse set, late Ozu, and of course you have the overwhelming box set of the essential Fellini. And the box sets are good to purchase during these kind of sales. You really get the best savings, but also the UHDs. I have not been buying UHDs because my UHD screen got damaged, so I'm a couple months away from buying another one, and so I've not been buying any UHDs. But for instance, in the meantime, Hard Day's Night, recent UHDs, Double Indemnity is available in UHD. It's also available on the channel. Of course, Criterion doesn't stream in UHD. But you do get a pretty good stream. I watched it, and all the supplements, and that film has great supplements. All the supplements for Double Indemnity are on the Criterion channel. So I hope you enjoy your experience. If you're going to be going to a Barnes & Noble, pick up movies. It's always, like I say, it's always been a great experience for me. It's kind of a traditional kind of thing. What am I going to get? I've got 4 on my list so far of recent releases. Joseph Losey's Mr. Klein, starring Elaine Delon, Bertrand Chavagner's Round Midnight, Stanley Kwan's Rouge. Stanley Kwan, I've never seen any films by him, but he was on the supplements of Boat People, and he was just such an engaging, and this was a recent interview or conversation between Anne Hui and Stanley Kwan. He was so engaging that I'm really looking forward to seeing one of his films, Rouge. And then coming out in July will be the one I most particularly want to get is David Lean's Summertime from the 1950s, starring Katharine Hepburn in glorious Technicolor. I wish maybe they had done a UHD, but I guess the elements weren't there, wouldn't have improved it any. So any movies that you're going to be getting, please let me know what you want, what you recommend in this Criterion sale. Thanks a lot for listening. I do appreciate it. Take care.